So just a few housekeeping notes. After this session, we're going to have a break with the exhibitors, and that's going to be from 3 to 3:30. And after that, we'll come in for our last session. At the break with exhibitors, Gladys said there's going to be lots and lots of raffles. And then you definitely want to stick around for the last session. Aside from the content, there's going to be a fresh new batch where you have to put your business card in for an Alaska airline ticket, and it's a round-trip ticket. So wherever you want to go that Alaska flies, that's what you're going to get. So make sure you're here. You got to have a new, fresh ticket to put in just for that session. This session that we're going to hear from is Balancing Life, Work, and Home. And I know quite a few of you, and you need to pay attention to this session. Having work priorities is one thing, but how do you balance your life priorities such as health, life, kids, sports, traveling, and other activities? We'd like you to learn from an expert on how to do it. You may apply one or two things from this experience. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jorge Rubio, who will be moderating the session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Are you guys awake? Okay, good. Well, I have to tell you that that was a touching presentation, that the one that was just put on by C.A.E. And on behalf of Ventura County, we really appreciate it. The session that we have now has to do a little bit with what happened in Ventura, but for the most part, it will have to do on how you need to balance your life. There's work priorities. There's also situations in which you may have a situation at home with your partner, with your kids, with your spouse. And sometimes you are carrying with that weight on your own. And we will learn from Anna on how you will be able to learn a little bit better and cope with those situations and, put the priorities where the priorities should be so you can have a more balanced and more joyful life. So with that being said, let me introduce you to Dr. Anna Kumor. Dr. Anna Kumor has been licensed as a marriage and family therapist since 2005, and is an expert in the field of relationships and employee assistance programs. Dr. Kumor has her Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Loyola Marymount University, her Master of Arts in Counseling Psychology from California Graduate Institute, and her Doctorate of Philosophy in Depth Psychology with an emphasis in psychotherapy from Pacifica Graduate Institute. She is an experienced organizational consultant. Dr. Kumor has provided coaching, presentations, and consultation to executives and managers in diverse topics such as team development, communication, workplace bullying, and threat assessment. Dr. Kumor was an internal EAP consultant for Kaiser Permanente for 9 years, in addition to keeping a private practice where she provided individually, family, and marriage counseling. Currently, Dr. Kumor serves as the Employee Assistance Program Director for the County of Ventura, and she's been a lot of help for us. So thank you. Dr. Kumor, please.
Well, thanks for having me. I see the room is cleared out for the psychotherapist. I'm a little bit used to that. I promise I won't analyze you from here. This is not what I do. But I am here to share all the tips and tricks that I do know about how to survive stressful encounters, how to deal with work, family, school, and a job at the same time. All these things that professionals are expected to do but never really taught how to do. So I will give you a smorgasbord of all kinds of things. What you think applies to you, take it. If it doesn't, look on your phone. But there are a couple of things I'd like you to pay attention to. There are going to be activities, just a couple, I promise, they're not difficult, where you think about something and then maybe discuss with your neighbor a little bit. Research shows that if you apply it or talk about it, it sticks in your head a little better than if I'm just here rattling on like that. So please do take that. There are also a couple of videos, again, to just kind of mix it up a little bit. I'm not sure, does this come out? It does, oh good. Yeah, because I know as soon as I move this way, you're not going to hear me anymore. So, all right, well, with that, let us begin. So I've been doing this a long time. I have done stress management presentations for surgeons. So I know a little bit about stress. Currently, I've done stress management groups, presentations, debriefings for law enforcement and firefighters. So again, in Ventura, we've had, in the 4 months that I've worked in Ventura, we've had many situations. So I've been thrown into the mix right away, and thankfully I know how to swim in the deep end. So been there, done that. So here's another thing I really wanted to emphasize. A lot of the high-stress fields are very similar. We come to work with our game face on, can't show vulnerability, heaven forbid anyone knows I'm sick, or my toe hurts, or I'm going through a divorce, or whatever it is. I'm not going to change the culture by myself and right away, but I am working on it with the firefighters, and they've been really open to accepting vulnerability in each other and helping each other out, not putting on the brave face all the time. Again, I want to be realistic. So some people you can talk to, some people you're not comfortable talking to. That's okay, as long as you have somebody. Doesn't really matter who. So our objectives: learn how the aviation industry is like other high-stress fields. Recognize your own indicators of stress. Try different stress management techniques. Choose one step you can take to improve your work-life balance, and then commit to taking it. And make your physical and mental health a priority. Again, I have done all the things I'm learning, teaching here, and I've put those into practice. There were weekends where I was crying at home and saying, why can't I go out like a normal person? I was working full-time and doing my PhD full-time at the same time. Yeah, and family and house and everything else. So these little things, they seem like they might be insignificant, but if you practice them, they really do work. So how is aviation like other high-stress fields? Mental and physical fitness requirements. There was, bless her soul, a psychiatrist I worked with who had a mental disorder. She was afraid to lose her license to practice. She was afraid to get help because she was afraid somebody would find out and she would lose her license to practice. I have a feeling that pilots and other aviation professionals have similar stresses. You can lose your ability to work. There are high expectations and high demands, long hours, time away from family, and isolation. I deal with that for the firefighters a lot. They're on 4-day shifts, 4-day on, 4-day off. So when they come home exhausted, like many pilots probably do, they just want to rest, and usually the wife says, here, take over. I've been doing this for 4 days straight. And the arguments ensue. Competitive, possibly hostile work environments, from what I am learning. And vulnerability is discouraged. Vulnerability is just the human condition, folks. We don't have to pretend we're not human. So who needs balance and why? An unbalanced life can lead to physical and mental health problems and relationship dysfunction, including divorce, depression, anxiety, alcoholism, and other issues. This is just from what I've seen in my office. So what does balance look like? And there are books on this stuff, but I think the pie is the easiest way to look at it. It's pretty much how are all these pieces? Are they roughly the same size, or is one really sticking out from the other? Do you look at your health and fitness? Are your relationships healthy? Is your family doing all right? Are you having any kind of fun at all? So I really, really have to say this out loud because I need you to be going through this checklist in your mind. Somebody in this room is thinking, I haven't had fun in years. Is that you? How's your career doing? Are you satisfied? Is your financial life doing okay? Personal development. We all go through phases in our lives, and sometimes one thing is important to us when we're younger, and a couple decades down, something else is important to us. It is okay to change your priorities. And yourself, and that could mean all kinds of things. So, looking at this, I do want to acknowledge, and as in my life as well, there are times when it's okay to burn the candle at both ends, to hard charge, to meet those deadlines, to do what you have to do. I'm not discouraging that at all, but I am saying that that's probably, that needs to be a short-term lifestyle, because over time, things are going to build up. Even if we pretend we're invincible, we're only going to be fooling ourselves after a while. So challenging work and reaching for goals are healthy only up to a point. Pushing yourself past your limits can backfire if you are not taking care of others' areas in your life. So we like to be in this middle zone there, where we're awake enough to show up, where we're engaged and we're having a good time. But as soon as it goes a little over the hump there into panic, anxiety, anger, and then possibly breakdown, think about where you're at on this bell curve here. Moving on to stress management. Stress is a condition or feeling experienced when a person perceives that demands exceed the personal and social resources the individual is able to mobilize. And it is so funny. Anything can trigger that. I love to plan things out. My whole day is like clockwork on the hour. And I like to know exactly what's going to happen. Who's coming in? What issues are they going to have? Do I need to take a walk first? All these things. But on the way here, I've never been here before. And I was driving from San Jose. And I'm like, okay, got to get the rental car, got to get here, and got to do that. I was nervous. And then I got here. I'm like, this is such a beautiful place. Why am I nervous? But I didn't know who you folks are. I've never been here before. And I didn't know what to expect. Is this still working? It is. Okay, good. Murphy's Law, that is what I try to plan for. It doesn't always work that way. So it was my perceived feeling of maybe not being able to reach the expectations I had for today caused me a bit of stress. Why couldn't I ignore it? Well, I had to keep my head on straight. But also, you can't change something until you accept it. So until I was able to say, you know, I am feeling a little bit nervous. Every time I gave myself permission to think that, I relaxed a little bit. So it's a pretty amazing thing to really just name and label and accept what you're going through. So here's the part where I want you to participate a little bit. Take a moment to check in with yourself. And you'll notice I'm a therapist, so I'm going to ask how you feel about things a lot. But there is a method to my madness, and that method is, again, until you acknowledge what you're going through, you're not able to change it. And we're so used to closing ourselves off to what we're feeling that we really disconnect from what we're actually feeling. And so I want you to take a moment and think, does something hurt me right now? How are my shoulders? Do I have a toothache? Do I have a headache? Am I tired? All this stuff. Just take a moment and do that. And then choose a word that describes how you feel and remember it or write it down or share it because we are going to circle back to that in a bit. Can someone help me load this video, please? I don't know who tech support is. Ah, great. Thank you. Sound?
Since you're watching this video, I'll bet you want to meditate but don't have time. Maybe you've tried to meditate but had some trouble. Maybe you had a wonderful experience meditating over there, but just can't find that same feeling over here. Well, my name is Marty Borison, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to the technique of one-moment meditation.
So meditation is one way to deal with stress, and this is really one of my favorite videos. I've shown it thousands of times.
Since you're watching this video, I'll bet you want to meditate but don't have time. Maybe you've tried to meditate but had some trouble. Maybe you had a wonderful experience meditating over there, but just can't find that same feeling over here. Well, my name is Marty Borison, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to the technique of one-moment meditation. Then you can meditate whenever you need to, like when you're feeling stressed or feeling angry. Maybe you're having trouble sleeping, or you're feeling anxious. Or you just need a new idea. Although one-moment meditation is ultimately about meditating in a moment, we're going to start with a minute. We start with a minute because a moment goes by so quickly that it's very hard to notice. But a minute is like a moment with handles on it. You know where it begins and where it ends, so it's easier to grasp. If you're ready, we'll do the basic minute now. You might want to shut the door, or at least tell people you're not available for the next minute. You don't have to tie yourself in knots for this. Just sit with your legs planted firmly on the floor. Try to sit up straight, but don't be rigid.
You can practice here if you want with the video.
It's as if your head were being lifted up, away from the weight of the
I
world.
am.
Think of it as cosmic traction. Now put your hands in any position that's balanced, symmetrical, and still. Like this, or like this. During the minute, simply focus on your breathing, moment by moment. Of course, even in the space of a minute, you will get distracted. That's perfectly normal. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. But as soon as you notice that you're distracted, just think, and bring your mind back to your breathing. I'll ring a bell so you know when to start and when to finish. Ready? Then close your eyes. Oh, one more thing. It's okay to smile. And go. As you open your eyes, notice how you feel right now. Maybe a little bit refreshed, a little bit more awake, a little bit more open-minded. Not bad for a minute. And the more you do it, the better it gets. But please don't ever do the basic minute for longer than a minute. Don't be macho about it. Because the point of the basic minute is to show you that you can make a meaningful change in your state of mind quickly. So if you do it for longer, you're cheating. With one-moment meditation, you can also learn how to do the portable minute, which is very useful when you're standing in line, on a train, or stuck in a boring meeting. You can also learn the bonus minute, the surprise minute, and the emergency minute. With one-moment meditation, you can also learn how to reduce the length of the basic minute step by step until it only takes a moment. And when you can meditate in a moment, your whole day can be filled with meditation because it takes no time at all.
So one of my favorite parts of this video is the thought that you can change, how does it say? You can make a meaningful change in your state of mind quickly. So you don't need to go on a week-long yoga retreat or take a million days off, anything like that. every time I see that video, I feel better. I'm like, well, that was cool. So I think it is about really just giving yourself permission to take that moment and putting it into practice. Because, well, here's a quote I have about putting into practice. That's something I really do want to stress. So, for example, the emotional soup that follows a stressful event can whip up negative stories about yourself and others that go on and on beyond being useful. For example, if you have an argument with your partner before leaving for work, you could end up replaying that conversation all day, which continues to proliferate anxiety or low mood for far more than is necessary. Mindfulness reduces this rumination and, if practiced regularly, changes your brain so that you're more resilient to future stressful events. So really, all it is noticing you're having a thought or feeling, giving yourself permission or forgiving yourself for having it or not being in the most perfect state right now, and then kind of watching it float away. It's really amazing stuff, simple but powerful. Okay. Oops, am I going backwards? No, we're good. So with all this how do you feel stuff, I have a list of words for you to see if any of them resonate with you. Let me make sure I didn't skip a slide. Nope, okay, we're good. So way a long time ago, before I decided to go into psychology, I was a biology major, and I went to New York Medical College and made my parents very, very happy until every day I would forget where my car was parked. And it was so awful to walk around this big parking lot every day, every evening. Then I couldn't do my schoolwork because I had pink eye. And then there was just always something, and I remember having the thought, I was doing biomedical research on cancer, by the way. I forgot which kind now, some kind of blood cancer. And I had the thought, can't I just talk to people all day? Wait, there's a job that does that. So I became a different kind of doctor. But this list here was something I will never forget because I had all of them at the time. Irritable, forgetful, anxious, binge eating, not sleeping, snappy, headache, distracted, making mistakes, isolating, controlling, obsessive, insecure, and avoidant. And add whatever you'd like to that list for what you do when things are just a little bit too much. So here's another part that I'd really like to share with you, that there are our reactions to things, but there are our thoughts that precede those reactions. And I have had thousands of people come to me about anger management issues or things like that when they say, I don't know, it just goes from 0 to 100. I'm like, no, there's a thought. There's a thought in there. Even if it's a split second, you do have some control over that. So this is how that works. So there's a potentially stressful objective event. Driving to Monterey and giving a speech in front of people who are not psychologists. Or a major exam, a big date, trouble with one's boss, financial setback, frustration, conflict, change in pressure. So there is something that happens on the outside. We're not saying that the external events don't happen, but this middle yellow section is really what I want to highlight. Then there's our thought about what has happened. So that's our personalized perceptions of the threat, which are influenced by familiarity, its controllability, its predictability, whatever it is. For me, it was not having my day perfectly scheduled out. Kind of tenses me up a little bit. And then I thought, so much can go wrong between San Jose and Monterey. And I have to plan for every little bit of it. And then I have the emotional response, possibly anger, annoyance, anxiety, fear, dejection, grief. Then I feel my heart palpitating a little bit, autonomic arousal, hormonal fluctuations, neurochemical changes, and so on. Then this last part is what we do. That's the part we have control over too. There's our thoughts in the middle, and then this last behavioral response. What am I going to do about feeling that little bit of nervous excitement? What are my coping efforts? Am I lashing out at others, blaming myself, seeking help, solving problems, or releasing emotions? All right, so this is also not even as complicated as it might look. So there's a middle zone where we all like to be, where we're feeling at our best. And literally, we're in the zone. We are doing something that feels great, whether it's flying for you folks maybe, where you just feel on top of the world where you got it just right. For me, it's when I'm playing my violin. It doesn't have to sound good, but I like it anyway, and it makes me very happy. So whatever it is that you are, actually I have a definition for being in the zone in a little bit, but you're in that perfect place where time disappears and you're just completely engaged in what you're doing. Then this is why we ask you all these things about how are you feeling now. Are you on the higher end? Are you hypervigilant? Are you manic? Are you angry, panicky, anxious? That's when you know you're kind of on the upper end of the out of your resiliency zone. Or there's depression, disconnection, exhaustion, fatigue, numbness. That's more on the depressive side of being out of your resiliency zone. So here's how you get back in the zone. Watch my cute little video. You can do that. It's on YouTube. Other things that are, again, I'm going to throw a lot of just different techniques at you. Some stuff will resonate. Please remember and use that. My favorite one, well, I like them all. Positive thinking. What you tell yourself matters. Are your thoughts hopeful and encouraging? I have a slide further on. Pretty much asks, are you your own worst enemy? So do think about that. The running dialogue that's going on in here really does color what happens out there. So flow, the mental state of operation in which a person performing an activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of the activity. In essence, flow is characterized by complete absorption in what one does and resulting loss in one's sense of time and space. That's my favorite thing in the world. I'd love to be in that all day. Now, another thing you can do when things are rough, you don't have to remember like the words for this stuff. It's the activities that count. Resourcing. Pretty much what that means is think of a really good time that you had in your life, that you were successful or you were happy or your best childhood memory, and just kind of always have that available so that when things are rough, you can think about that happy time and it will change your body chemistry. It's pretty amazing. I was raised in San Pedro, so that's in the South Bay, even further south than Ventura, and I was raised going to the tide pools I don't want to say every day, but almost every day. So when I leaned out the balconies here and I saw the sea anemones at the bottom, I was right back in that childhood happy place. It was a really cool thing. Grounding is physically feeling supported by a wall, a floor, your seat. So I know when I've had a really stressful day, I go home and lay on the floor, and everyone knows to walk around me. It's been a day, but it helps me feel good. So resilience is the buzzword in psychology nowadays. You're going to hear it a lot, but it's also a really great concept. Resilience is that ineffable quality that allows some people to be knocked down by life and come back stronger than ever. Rather than letting failure overcome them and drain their resolve, they find a way to rise from the ashes. Psychologists have identified some of the factors that make someone resilient. Among them, a positive attitude, optimism, the ability to regulate emotions, and the ability to see failure as a form of helpful feedback. Even after misfortune, resilient people are blessed with such an outlook that they are able to change course and soldier on. And I extra highlighted the ability to regulate emotions because that's a lot of what I'm talking about here today. So how can you become more resilient? There are skills that you can use. Tracking, now that's the whole how do you feel thing. It is really, really a great starting point to do that. There's mindfulness, learning how to non-judgmentally observe your own thoughts, naming your feelings, expressing your feelings at the appropriate time, place, and method, knowing how to communicate, because there are a lot of folks who just shut down, and that doesn't help because that makes the gap bigger between themselves and their loved ones. People feel disconnected from each other, more isolated, and then, other things can happen, depression and worse. Keep your boundaries, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. Build healthy and satisfying relationships. Here's a really important one. Define your purpose in life. I'm going to say that one again. Define your purpose in life. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be something that means something to you. And prioritize your mental, physical, and emotional health. So here's another really important part why it has its own slide. And we'll do a little exercise on gratitude in just a second. Gratitude improves psychological health. Gratitude reduces a multitude of toxic emotions, ranging from envy and resentment to frustration and regret. Robert A. Emmons, PhD, a leading gratitude researcher, has conducted multiple studies on the link between gratitude and well-being. His research confirms that gratitude effectively increases happiness and reduces depression. I find that very profound, so I'm going to say that last sentence again. His research confirms that gratitude effectively increases happiness and reduces depression. How powerful is that? So, of course, we're going to practice it right now. Think about something or someone or an experience that you're really grateful for. Think of it in detail. Sights, sounds, smells, and describe it to the person sitting next to you. Because, of course, you know, the more we say this stuff out loud, the more it sticks in our brain. So I'll give us just a couple minutes. Participate as you like.